Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope everyone's doing well. So today I am back with a long promised collection update. I mentioned previously that I bought some new vinyls recently when on my travels, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I have a total of 6 albums actually, and most of them are vinyl, so I know it's a bit time consuming to show those, so I'll try not to waste your valuable time and just go through these. I'm not going to talk about the albums in too much detail because there are a lot to talk about, but we'll see how it goes. So having said that, we'll get straight into it. So the first album which I picked up, this is DARKTHRONE with The Underground Resistance. So if you've previously watched my channel, you'll know that DARKTHRONE is one of my favorite bands of all time, in my top 10. But funnily enough, I don't own all of their albums. There's a few gaps in the collection post 2000, so I own all of their sort of classic studio albums from Soulside Journey up to Plague Wielder inclusive, but after that there are some gaps. I do own some other albums like The Cult Is Alive and Arctic Thunder, but having said that, there's a few from the 2000s onwards that I haven't picked up, so this was one of them. I actually saw this at a record store. It was discounted in the bargain bin. I'm not sure why, I think maybe sleeve damage or something, but the condition is absolutely great. Anyway, I'm very happy to have picked this up and opened up my mind to some of the newer albums. So, of course, DARKTHRONE needs no introduction, one of the most influential Norwegian black metal bands of all time, and just influential black metal bands in general, really. In the early 2000s, their sound evolved, where they started incorporating aspects of heavy metal and punk, so other styles, and that's certainly the case on this album as well. So it sort of started, early, mid-2000s, something like that, but yeah, I can't believe I overlooked this album for so long because it's fantastic. So I'm not going to, as I said, I'm not going to talk about it in too much detail, but yes, it's sort of, it's that sort of black and roll sound that they had developed over time. So it's sort of like groovy and rocking, incorporating rock and roll elements and also heavy metal riffs and punk riffs. That's what you get on this album. There's a lot of diversity and a lot of twists and turns, but having said that, they retain that trademark DARKTHRONE sound, and I think that's the funny thing. Initially they were a cold black metal band, but over the years they've evolved into not just sounding like black metal, but developing their own distinct style. So really, they sound like DARKTHRONE, and yeah, that's of course a fantastic thing. Like there are still some trademark elements there, like the bouncy drumming rhythms and Nocturno Culto's distinct vocals, those raspy vocals, which have sort of got a lower pitch, but yeah, if you're a fan of this band and you haven't checked it out, I'd really recommend it. So it's a very diverse album musically speaking, in terms of both the styles featured on here and how the songs stand out from each other. So it's not like an album where all the songs sound the same, not at all. They're actually really distinct. And you see on the back here, it's actually both members, Nocturno Culto and Fenriz, who perform vocals. So they alternate lead vocals on all 6 tracks. So they sing 3 songs each. So the first track, entitled Dead Early, that's got some really catchy and hooky heavy metal riffing combined with Nocturno Culto's distinct raspy vocals, and the bridge also features some punky sounding riffs. So that's just to give you an example about how they're retaining the old DARKTHRONE sound but incorporating other styles. Now I'm just going to mention my 2 other favorite tracks to save you some time, but I will say, like, the whole album is really worthwhile. I don't dislike any of the tracks. Maybe the one that doesn't grab me so much is the one at the end of side 1 called The Ones You Left Behind, but still certainly not a bad track. But my 2 favorite tracks, I have to say, are track 2, which is Valkyrie. That's got a somber acoustic intro and a kind of slow, doomy, sorrowful main riff. But then when Fenriz's clean vocals kick in, that's when the music speeds up into fast and catchy riffs. You know, as you probably know, Fenriz is normally the drummer of DARKTHRONE, but on later albums he started performing lead vocals as well on some songs, not just Nocturno Culto. And I've heard a lot of people say actually that he can't sing very well. I actually disagree. I think his vocals are very distinct, melodic and in tune. And the vocals on this track, Valkyrie, they remind me of his vocals which he performed in his black doom metal project Isengard. So if you're into Isengard, you'll feel right at home with this track Valkyrie. So it's very melodic and triumphant sounding, and it's got some really melodic and simplistic but fantastic guitar solos at the end. So Valkyrie, if you're a fan of Isengard, you will really like that track, and again it's incorporating those heavy metal elements. But actually, so the first side has 4 tracks, the second side has 2 tracks. They're really long. There's so many twists and turns on those songs. They're both great. But let's just go to my favorite song on the album to save some time. That's the last song on the album, entitled Leave No Cross Unturned. Again, lead vocals are performed by Fenriz on this one. So his clean vocals in this song, they're very high pitched and heavy metal sounding in some songs, including this one. But this song has just so much diversity. It's packed full of fast, catchy riffs, both heavy metal and black metal, so it's got a bit of everything. And it's very energetic and upbeat. Now, there are 3 main riffs in this song. The main riff in the beginning is fast and thrashy and includes some blistering guitar solos. The second riff is a galloping, typical DARKTHRONE-esque riff and includes some moans of the undead, which sound really scary. Then the third riff is that classic kind of catchy 4/4 DARKTHRONE riff, where it's tapped in with the hi-hat. Fenriz does the tap in, you're waiting for it to break down, but it's really cool because he just keeps tapping the hi-hat. It's almost like he's saying, wait for it, but when it kicks in, it's just fucking awesome, so that's great. Really good climax to the song. Before, there's so many guitar solos in this track, but before the main one in the middle, Fenriz introduces it with Nocturno Culto, like as he's done on previous albums. It sounds really cool. Then the song later launches into a fast staccato section featuring typical DARKTHRONE black metal riffs, so harking back to the old days, you could say. And those riffs are very fast and blistering and black metal-esque, so quelling the attitude that they've slowed down and abandoned their black metal roots. It's certainly showing on this song that they have retained it, that's what I'm saying. And there's another blistering guitar solo at the end. So yeah, I think they saved the best song for last on this album, but absolutely brilliant. So I strongly recommend it. If you're one of those people who hasn't given the more modern albums a chance, definitely do so. There's also another track on here, I think it's Come Warfare, The Entire Doom. That's got a similar sound to the album Arctic Thunder, which I also really like. So yeah, fantastic. Here's the front cover, very cool. And back, so it's got the personnel and all their duties. And comes in this nice jacket, so featuring photos of the band, cool pictures, and I think, yeah, lyrics are included. And just comes on plain black vinyl with the classic DARKTHRONE logo. Yep, so like I said, I'd never abandoned or given up on this band, but I just hadn't been in such a hurry to pick up some of their later albums. But with discount, this one, yeah, it was discounted brand new, and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a chance, and I'm so glad I did. I have a friend from England who really loves this album, and he was always recommending it to me. I finally bought it. He said, yeah, I told you to ages ago, but brilliant album. If you like DARKTHRONE, definitely check it out. So that's DARKTHRONE with the Underground Resistance. All right. Okay, coming up next, this is a pretty diverse update, so we're going to some heavy metal now, traditional heavy metal. I also picked up SAXON with their self-titled debut. So as you can see here from the Obi strip, it's the Japanese pressing. In Thailand, they do import a lot of records from Japan, so that's why it's like this. SAXON, again, need no introduction. Classic new wave of British heavy metal band from Northern England, Barnsley. And you might have heard me talk about this band on my channel before. I own a few albums, but not all of them. I previously owned from Wheels of Steel up to The Power and the Glory, but I was missing this one, so glad to finally pick it up. This is their debut, which came out in 1979. So, wow, going right back to the early days. It's a very fun, upbeat, hard rock, heavy metal album. It's got some elements of raw 70s hard rock, especially in terms of the production, but a very prominent bass sound, which is fantastic. And for 1979, this is just way ahead of its time. It sounds much more like new wave of British heavy metal than 70s rock. The first track is called Rainbow Theme. That's an instrumental intro. Then we go to track 2, which is entitled Frozen Rainbow. That's kind of got a psychedelic proggy feel with its prolonged instrumental sections. It's slow and atmospheric, but also features some fast galloping sections. And as always, there are amazing vocals and lead guitar work on this track. And it also launches into some upbeat heavy metal riffing. and which is very characteristic of Saxon. So you can see there are already elements of their sound forming on this album. Then we go into track 3, which is entitled Big Teaser. That's a standard upbeat, fast, hard rock, heavy metal song. It's got a catchy chorus with harmonized backing vocals, and this is what I think led lead vocalist Biff to describe this album as their ooh-ah album, because it's those kind of backing vocals, but I think they really fit the music well, so that's great. Then the final track on side 1 is called Judgment Day. That's got simplistic but very catchy riffing in the chorus, excellent bass lines, and the bridge is a slow, epic atmospheric section, kind of psychedelic sounding again. And it also has some brilliant guitar solos at the end. Then we go over to side 2, and I just need to, there we go. Yep, so to read the actual tracks here, I'm moving the Obi strip. So tracks 1 and 2, which are called Stallions of the Highway and Backs to the Wall, they sound very characteristic of songs found on the album's Wheels of Steel and Denim and Leather. So especially with the riffing and the vocals. So you can see on this album, while there are elements of 70s rock remaining, they are starting to forge the sound which became Saxon already. Track 3 on side B is called Still Fit to Boogie. Now, despite the title, I hate the word boogie. It's just one of those words which annoys me, but it's the music that counts. Yeah, this track, Still Fit to Boogie, it's my favorite one on the album. It has a kind of old rock and roll feeling with the vocals and lyrics, but really catchy riffs and vocal melodies, and the chorus just sticks in your head big time, speaking for myself anyway. And then the final track is entitled Militia Guard. That has a psychedelic rock sound with both musically and vocally, but it's still very enjoyable, and there are some epic and atmospheric clean guitar melodies and vocal lines. So no complaints about any of the songs on this album. I like them all, and it's fantastic. So yeah, as you can probably tell from my description, it's not 100% heavy metal yet, but certainly getting there. And as I said, for 1979, this was way ahead of its time. So just show you the cover. I've always liked that picture, the Obi strip here, picture of the band on the back with the song titles. Now it's plain black vinyl, and here we have the insert with Japanese and English lyrics, picture of the band, so that's kind of cool. And just show you the actual vinyl itself. So Carrera Records, plain black vinyl. This is second-hand, but it came in very good condition at a good price, so really pleased to pick it up. And because it has that kind of raw 70s rock sound, it's perfect for vinyl, so absolutely fantastic. Just one last point, you'll see with this cover art, I remember, do you remember the British comedy, The Young Ones, one of my favorite TV shows, and I was watching that as a kid in the 80s, and you know Vivian, the guy with the ginger head mohawk and all the studs in his jacket, he had this on his t-shirt, and even that age before I discovered heavy metal, I was thinking, wow, that's so cool. So who would have thought at the time that I would come full circle and end up liking this music? But yeah, there you go. So brilliant debut from this band, well ahead of its time. It set the standard. This is Saxon with their self-titled debut. All right. Okay, and up next, I actually picked up another Saxon album. This is Saxon with Innocence Is No Excuse. And I actually got this at a really good price, discounted, brand new, so I'm really happy to pick this one up. This is the album which Saxon themselves called their Def Leppard album, so to speak. Now, I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate. Perhaps in terms of the production and the backing vocals, it sounds a bit Def Leppard-esque. So the production is polished and squeaky clean, but I think it's more in the vein of Def Leppard's Pyromania rather than Hysteria. So, as you know, Hysteria is the most muted and overproduced album in the world, even though the music is great, but you know, Pyromania had a slightly rawer sound, so I think this is closer in line with the production of Def Leppard's Pyromania. But the good thing about the production on this album is it's got a big solid drum sound and prominent bass lines, so you can hear the bass lines really clearly. The rhythm section on this album is solid as fuck, and when you play this on vinyl on the big system, you hear the bass and the drums really well, so it's fantastic. And of course, what can you expect on this album? It's excellent catchy riffing, solos and vocals throughout, so typical Saxon material really. But I can see why a lot of, you know, there's always die-hard fans who complain that they were probably straying from their purest heavy metal sound, as in it was going more of a sort of a glammy hard rock 80s MTV direction. But Do I think they compromised their sound or themselves? No, not at all. I mean, for me, I really like Def Leppard, and so I have no problems with the sound on this album, and it's good that this album has its own distinct sound. I think also in some parts of some songs, it's also comparable to Dokken, so if you like, you know, early Def Leppard and Dokken, you'll probably like this. Now, this was the last album to feature, what was his name? Steve Dawson on bass guitar. But there are no bad songs at all, so I really like them all. So track 1, Rockin' Again, that's got an atmospheric intro with clean vocals and guitars, a big catchy chorus and backing vocals which are very Def Leppard-esque. Track 2, called Call of the Wild, the riffing and the guitar melodies on this song are so catchy, and it's got an extremely catchy chorus which you sing along to. You know, it's the call of the wild, it's the creatures of the night, you will be singing along. Or Back on the Streets, I think that was a single from this album. That's got a really anthemic British heavy metal chorus and very British in sound and style. So it has a kind of feel-good and triumphant vibe as well, I would say. Then track 4 entitled Devil Rides Out, that's got solid riffing and a catchy chorus, more hard rock heavy metal than Def Leppard on this song, but there are some eerie synth sounds above the bass solo in the middle. So yeah, it still has that Def Leppard-esque atmosphere. And do I have a problem with that? No. Then track 5, Rock and Roll Gypsy, that's got melodic 80s guitar riffs at the start, great grand and powerful sounding Saxon-esque chorus, of course, and nice melodic but screechy guitar solo, so that's great as well. Then we go over to side 2, first track is called Broken Heroes, that's got catchy riffing and a sing-along chorus. Track 2, Gonna Shout, that's a very feel-good and catchy song. It's sort of, for me, it has the same kind of vibe and sound as Judas Priest's Parental Guidance. Is that far-fetched? I don't know. And it's very easy to sing along to the chorus, and there's also an atmospheric bridge with some clean guitars. So yeah, that's the thing. By going with this Def Leppard Dokken-esque sound, there's a lot more atmosphere on this album than the pure heavy metal ones, and I like a bit of atmosphere in my songs, so, and melody as well, so I have no problem with that. Then track 3, Everybody Up. That's just a great heavy metal anthem, awesome catchy riff and excellent vocals. Now, the next track, Raise Some Hell, that's got a great galloping bass line, catchy, shouty, anthemic chorus, and the verse lines are very reminiscent of early Saxon. So for people who are complaining that they had strayed from their original sound, I think that song retains their early sound, which is great. And then the last one, Give It Everything You've Got. This is a fast, upbeat closer, and one of the riffs in this song, I think one of the main riffs, it reminds me a bit of Motorhead, so no complaints there. So again, they are still definitely incorporating heavy metal. Just remember the time when this album came out, it was the mid-80s, so that was when MTV was getting big and Def Leppard was the big thing, so bands experimented with their sound a bit, but I think that's what makes this album distinct. Yeah, so I really like it personally. What do you guys think of it? So here's the album cover, which is kind of iconic, Saxon logo on the apple, and it's pretty cool. It comes in a gatefold with all of the lyrics, photo of the band. That photo is hilarious, especially this, like that's even quite bad for the 80s, I think, but yeah, I try not to be judgmental because when you're living in the mid-80s, it was a wild time. So yeah, very cool. And it's got, I'll show you the actual jacket. It's got, you know, old flyers from the time this album came out, like pictures of the picture disc and the singles, which were Back on the Streets, Club Mix, yeah. So, and the grand finale, it comes on this absolutely stunning, exquisite lemon lime splatter vinyl, or marbleized vinyl, what would you say? So you've got the apple there. Yep, so very cool. And it was really weird, this one was randomly discounted brand new, so I'm very happy to have picked it up. And like I said, I have no problems with the band experimenting with this kind of sound because I'm a big fan of Def Leppard and Dokken as well. So it's sort of like, imagine Saxon blended with Def Leppard, early Def Leppard and Dokken, and that's what you have. So fantastic. Saxon with Innocence Is No Excuse. All right, now coming up next is an album by one of my favorite rock bands of all time, probably my second favorite after Kiss, and I was so happy to see this and finally pick up a copy. This band needs no introduction. This is of course Scorpions with Savage Amusement. So Scorpions, world famous hard rock heavy metal band from Hanover, Germany. I don't think I can say anything that hasn't already been said, but they are iconic, they are legendary, and one of my favorite rock bands of all time, like I said. So this album came out in 1987 after Love at First Sting, which was the album which featured Rock You Like a Hurricane, one of their biggest hits. And a lot of people said that this album was a bit of a disappointment in the sense that it had lost the band had lost their rawness and they went in favor of a more polished commercial direction. Maybe so, but once again, remember it was 1987, so in the mid to late 80s, they started experimenting with this polished sound. And it's funny, you know how I mentioned Def Leppard with the Saxon album? This was the album where they started experimenting with Def Leppard-esque hysteria-style production, especially on the song Media Overkill. You can definitely hear that, you know, with all the electronically altered voices and the mechanical drum beats and everything. But yeah, as I said, it's a product of its time, 1987. But the thing which makes this album fantastic is just the songs are so melodic, so catchy, so memorable. I love this album. So, picture of the band on the back here. Just going through them, you probably all know this one, but it starts with Don't Stop at the Top with that big, heavy, driving Euro riff. Fantastic chorus, of course, brilliant vocals from Klaus Meine, as always, which are sort of what make the Scorpions sound. Track 2, Rhythm of Love. That's one of my favorite Scorpion tracks of all time. You know, just a really heavy and catchy power ballad. So good, everything about that song, and the video clip is also great. Then you've got Passion Rules the Game, which is that was one of the singles from this album as well, and a catchy hard rock anthem. Media Overkill, as I said, that's where they start experimenting with the Def Leppard-esque hysteria style production, but again, very memorable and catchy. And then side 1 concludes with the other power ballad, Walking on the Edge, which is like soft and somber with a big build-up chorus, but absolutely fantastic. Hold on. Yep, then we go over to side 2, and it starts with We Let It Rock, You Let It Roll, which is a faster, catchier song after some slower songs on side 1. Now, one of my favorite tracks, undoubtedly, is Every Minute, Every Day. Just so catchy and melodic. That's kind of like a power ballad love song as well, but not cheesy at all. And the backing vocals done by Rudolf Schenker, it sounds so German and 80s, but it sticks in your head and you can't help singing along, so I love that track. Then Love on the Run, that's a sort of fast, upbeat track again. So the guitar sound in that actually reminds me of the guitar sound on Kiss's Crazy Nights album, which actually came out the same year, so maybe that was a product of its time once again. And then the album concludes with a fantastic power ballad called Believe in Love. So I know the famous ballad by this band is Still Loving You, and I don't mind that song, but I've heard it thousands of times, of course. But for me, I much prefer Believe in Love. It's a bit sappy and sentimental, but it's got some great atmosphere. Fantastic guitar work on that song. And by the way, I was going to say, listening to this album on vinyl, I really appreciate the drumming so much more. There's complex rhythms which you don't normally pay attention to, and the bass lines are so much more prominent. That's the good thing about vinyl. It sounds more live and it sounds fuller, you know? So it just really adds to the brilliant musicianship on this album. So I would say, for me, the only 2 tracks which are a bit weaker than the others are We Let It Rock, You Let It Roll, and Love on the Run, the kind of faster tracks. And I think they were doing those to compensate for the slower ballady tracks, but they're by no means bad songs. You can sing along, they're very catchy, so I just love this whole album, no complaints. So my favorite tracks, just to recap, would definitely be Don't Stop at the Top, Rhythm of Love, which is probably my favorite song on the album, Walking on the Edge, and Every Minute, Every Day, and Believe in Love. So 5 of the 9 tracks are my favorites. So here we have a picture of the band on the back. This was the classic lineup which the band had from the 1975 Love Drive album up to Crazy World, I'm going to say the one after this. So Herman Rebel on drums, Matthias Jabs on lead guitar. By the way, criminally underrated heavy metal guitarist. You don't hear many people talking about him, but his leads are brilliant. And what I like about him is when you see him perform live, he's always smiling. He is the one rock star that looks like he's really enjoying himself the whole time. So Klaus Meine on lead vocals, of course, the distinct the voice of the Scorpions. Oh, and I shouldn't say the Scorpions because it's Scorpions. You know, a lot of people mistake that, but brilliant vocalist. That's what make this band, his vocals are what make this band what it is. Yeah. Also, Francis Buchholz on bass. He was on this album, on for another couple of albums. He ended up getting sacked by management, unfortunately. And Rudolf Schenker on rhythm guitar, the main songwriter. So the main songwriting team was Rudolf Schenker and Klaus Meine, still is to this day. So, yep, front cover here, very cool. And just show you the inner sleeve here. So all of the credits here, and wait for it. How 80s is this? A hot pink background for all of the lyrics. Yeah, so like I said, Scorpions are one of my favorite rock bands of all time. I know some people dislike them, saying they're too ballady or they've got too many love songs, but the ones on this album are certainly not cheesy. For me, I really love Scorpions up to about Crazy World, and then there were a few albums in the 90s which were kind of not my style, but then they did a major comeback with Unbreakable, and of course Rock Believer is a great album as well. But this is undoubtedly one of my favorites. I will do a Scorpions ranking one day, but if you haven't heard this album and you like melodic hard rock and heavy metal, definitely check it out. So this is Scorpions with Savage Amusement. All right. Okay, so coming up once again, shifting gears, we're going to change to a different style, to some alternative rock. This is Screamfeeder with Burn Out Your Name. So you might have heard me mention this band in threads on this channel before, but I've only briefly mentioned this album. But Screamfeeder are an alternative / indie rock band from Australia, from Brisbane, and this is their album from 1993, the second full length. This is very nostalgic for me because I discovered this band 30 years ago when I saw them live at a concert in Sydney, performing alongside Tumbleweed, Fridge and UMI. I'm not sure if those bands are very well known outside Australia, but what you have here is just this band. I've said before, they sound totally unique. It's grungy, it's melodic, it's gritty, it's catchy. It's so unique. I can't describe sufficiently how unique this band is, but I will say this: if you like 90s alternative rock or grunge, I don't like to use the word grunge because this is not really a grunge band, but you may find yourself liking this. So let's say they don't sound like any of these bands, but you may like this band if you enjoy some of these bands I mentioned. So like NIRVANA, Mudhoney, Silverchair, Teenage Fan Club, Sonic Youth, you know, bands like that, Lemonheads as well, but they don't sound like any of those bands. But Smashing Pumpkins. But if you like bands of that general 90s alternative rock era, this might appeal to you. The band which they have been the bands which they have been compared to mostly are Husker Du, Bitch Magnet and Swerve Driver. So I'm not familiar with many of those bands, but I am with Husker Du. A lot of people have told me, based on my musical taste, oh, you should check out Husker Du because you would like them. And this album has been compared a lot to Husker Du's sound, so that might give you some indication. But just really fantastic, melodic, hooky and unique alternative rock. Very Australian in sound, in my opinion. Even though I think the vocalist and guitarist Tim Stewart, he's originally from England but moved to Australia when he was very young. A brilliant album. So I know a lot of people into metal don't really like alternative rock, but if you like grunge and alternative music, you will probably like this, and I strongly recommend that you go and listen to it. So 11 songs on this album. There's none that I dislike. I think the 3 singles off this were Fingers and Toes, which has a very Husker Du sound, so I've heard, Wrote You Off, and Around a Pole. And those singles are great. The only song that doesn't grab me as much is Wrote You Off, and the guitar melodies in that are great, but it's just a bit of a sentimental song, I think, about wanting your ex back. So, you know, it happens, it's relatable. But my favorite songs undoubtedly would be Sushi Bowl, I Won't Be There, Smoke from Tinsel, and Hold On, the last track, absolutely brilliant. So it's not an album I can sufficiently describe in words, but just go and listen to it, honestly. Okay, so just show you the inner sleeve. So here's a picture of the inner sleeve. So got the album name, Tim Stewart on vocals and guitars, Tony Blades on drums, wearing the Husker Du t-shirt, so a giveaway of the sound on this album, and Kelly Lloyd on bass. So these guys, Kelly and Tim, have been the core members ongoing. And just pictures of the band here. So this was from 30 years ago, 1993, and a bit of a bio. And then there's this cool fold-out lyric sheet as well with the front cover design. And people will know by now I'm a big fan of colored vinyl. It comes on this very cool bright yellow vinyl with nice labels as well, featuring the front cover art. Yeah, so if you have an open mind and you listen to stuff beyond metal and you like some 90s alternative rock, I definitely recommend checking this out. This is my favorite SCREAMFEEDER album. I do have more, but I'll talk about those in subsequent videos. I'm going to make a SCREAMFEEDER video where I talk about all of their albums. So yeah, to show you the back, all of the song titles, very cool, the layout, the music, everything. That's SCREAMFEEDER with Burn Out Your Name. Okay, and sorry guys, this video has been going on for a while, but it's almost finished. Lastly, I'm going to show one CD. This actually came from my CD haul, which I showed a couple of months ago, but when I bought this album, they had the wrong disc inside. So this is NIRVANA with Innocence. So when I bought this a couple of months ago, I found the disc inside was the album In Utero. So I took it back to the shop and the guy said, oh sorry, I got confused, In Utero, Incesticide. Anyway, I got it. So sorry Brendan, I know BVD, you think this, he included this in his terrible albums video. He said it was shit, but with all due respect, I disagree. I really like this album. This is very nostalgic, like from my teen years, just like SCREAMFEEDER's Burn Out Your Name. This was the bootleg album, not bootleg, but it featured unreleased tracks, rehearsal tracks, and songs from EPs, so it's kind of a mixed bag, also some covers, and it's just a really good album, like 15 tracks here. You'll see here, it shows all the people involved, so NIRVANA is of course a three-piece, but they show the 4 drummers who were involved in NIRVANA, so not just Dave Grohl, but also Dale Crover, Chad Channing, and Danny Peters, who also played in Mudhoney. But yeah, what's good about this album is it's nowhere near as commercial as Nevermind, which is a great album too, but you just hear some grittier, punky, more experimental tracks on this album, but also some great melody as well. I really like all of the tracks. The only ones I don't like as much are Sliver, which is interesting because they made an EP release of that song. It's just a bit depressing musically and lyrically for me. And then maybe the slightly weak tracks are Molly's Lips and Son of a Gun. So I think they were both Vaseline's covers actually. So Molly's Lips, that song is just one riff going throughout. I do like the vocal melody in the verse, but not the chorus. And Son of a Gun is okay, but a little bit depressing, but all of the other tracks are great. Dive is a fantastic song, good bass solos, and that Stain is very heavy metal-esque, great vocals. Been a Sun, I love the chorus in that track. Turnaround is that a Melvins cover? I think so, I'll correct myself. Otherwise, New Wave Polly is a sped up version of the acoustic ballad Polly, like a fast punk version, which is cool. But it's actually the tracks towards the end of the album which I love the most. So Beeswax is great chorus on that. Downer, which was also on the Bleach album. Mexican Seafood has a fantastic chorus. Hairspray Queen has some kind of crazy, retchy, stupid vocals in the verse, but the chorus, absolutely brilliant and atmospheric. Aero Zeppelin, it's got just such a heavy atmospheric feel, and I heard one article describe that as the worst song in this album. Fuck that, it's a great song. So Aero Zeppelin, very good. And it's got a kind of fast, upbeat part as well. Big Long Now is a slow, chugging, heavy track, which is really good. And then it, of course, features the famous track Aneurysm to conclude with. So yeah, totally love this album. As I said, there are only 3 tracks which don't grab me as much, which are Sliver, Molly's Lips, and Son of a Gun, but 12 out of 15 ain't bad. And even those 3 tracks, they're not terrible, I just don't like them as much. But yeah, and I know a lot of people into metal hate Nirvana, but as I've said, I don't. It wasn't an official release of theirs, but it's one of my favorite albums by them, if that makes sense. So yes, again, if you're open-minded enough to check it out, definitely do so, because it's an underrated gem. That's Nirvana with Incesticide. Alright guys, so the video has taken longer than I expected, and I think it's because it's time consuming taking stuff out and, you know, showing all the pieces, but in post I will edit out the prolonged pauses, so hopefully it doesn't go on for too long. So that concludes my collection update. Thanks for your patience and thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the video. And once again, thanks for all of your support. Thank you to all the new subscribers, and I hope you guys keep watching. So I'll be back again soon. I got some more releases in, some more extreme metal releases in just recently, so I will do a collection update after an existing CD collection video. So tons of stuff to talk about, and it's not going to stop soon, hopefully. Knock on wood. Alright, so I won't take up any more of your time. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers.